Welcome to the Simply Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. And today's topic is cyber security, some things you can do to protect yourself. And to cover this topic, I have with me Chuck Ruiz. He's the owner of Bethel IT Services, located in Bethel, Connecticut. They provide solid IT services for small and medium-sized businesses. Chuck is an avid entrepreneur. Elliott Wealth Management has been his client for some 5 years. It's been a great business relationship. They provided a tremendous amount of resources for this small business. On a personal note, I've known Chuck for, I don't know, Chuck, how long we've known each other? 8, 10 years? No, it's even longer.
No, 20.
20 years. So I've known Chuck 20 years. We went to the same school.
So much to you.
Yes, I like to figure that I'm much younger than I am. And so, Chuck, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your busy day to spend with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So, to begin with, cybersecurity. I know you're an expert in the field, but for people that are listening that may not be the most technologically advanced, just basic users of technology, go to some websites, maybe do shopping, some basic emails. How would you define cybersecurity? What is it that we're going to talk about today?
Well, it's basically keeping yourself and your identity and your credit cards and your personal data safe from people that are trying to get it. The cyber world is a scary place. Everyone's out to get you.
Everyone.
Everyone. It goes as far as nation states having the government funding hacking teams in order to try and get data out of people. So it's government funded at some levels. Not so much in this country, but other countries are known to.
So a lot of the stuff we hear about is not somebody in North Dakota or Oklahoma that's stealing information or invading my cyber world, but it's often happening overseas?
Both. So you have everything from
everyone.
You have a kid in his mom's basement looking to hack into something because he thinks it's cool, to mafia types that are just trying to steal credit card numbers.
Okay. And some of it's state-sponsored.
From other countries, it's state-sponsored.
Wow.
To try and scrape for any kind of data that they can to paint a bigger picture of something.
So what are some basic cybersecurity measures that just your average man, woman, and child can do with their computer, phone, other technology devices?
Sure. So the first thing I always recommend to people is to make sure that you have good, strong passwords, and they're different on all of your important things. So make sure that your bank password is different from your email password, and that's different from your Amazon.com password, and etc. And a strong password is generally something that is made up of letters, both upper and lowercase, numbers, and some sort of symbol.
So I'm a layperson, so I know, with the technology we use here at Elliott Wealth Management Services, they prompt you have to have these complex passwords. Mm-hmm. So as a user, it's kind of a pain in the rear end. I mean, I get the need for the information to be securely. I mean, I get that completely. But is it really that helpful if there's an exclamation point and uppercase and lowercase? Does that actually make a difference? Because, again, as more of a layperson than not, it seems to me that that's much ado about nothing. But you're telling me that actually has a pretty big impact?
Yes. So one of the standard ways people hack passwords is to do a brute force attack, and that is trying every combination of every letter.
Okay.
So if a criminal guesses that this website, if the criminal knows that this website only requires you to have lowercase numbers or lowercase letters,
yes,
and they can parse through all of those letters quickly, so like AAAA, AAAB, AAAC, and so on, till they get through it. Adding another set of symbols in there extends the length of time it would take to churn through all of those things.
So that extends it then exponentially, the possible combinations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good.
But you just mentioned that it's always a pain to try and remember these to deal with these long passwords.
Yes.
One of the tips that I usually give my folks is to just make a sentence. A sentence includes special characters, it includes upper and lower case, it includes punctuation. So passwords can have spaces in them. So if I'm looking at across the room right now, and there's a brass doorknob on the door, I can make my password. That door has a brass doorknob with a period, and there you have it. You have a complex password, and it's easy for you to remember.
So do most families, individuals, we're not talking businesses now, do most individuals abide by that guideline that you just gave? Is there any statistics or out there?
I don't know of any hard facts, but I would guess that most people make their passwords as simple as possible so that they can remember them, and only when password change time comes that they increment whatever numbers at the end of it by one.
Right. And I'm reminded too, in the lead up to the presidential election, the Democratic National Committee got their data hacked in some way, shape, or form. And I don't pretend to know all of what happened, but I'm pretty sure I had read in numerous places that the password was 1234. And that led to all of this data from the DNC getting exposed. That's a long way from the guideline you just gave.
Oh, sure. But that's bad password practice. That is bad management of whoever is in charge of making sure that everyone's stuff's secure.
But in today's world, Chuck, so I'm just going through a mental list of all the passwords I need for both my personal needs as well as the business needs. I mean, it's a lengthy list. So if I need a different one for everyone, plus you're supposed to change them somewhat frequently. So as an example, my just basic personal email, how frequently should I change that password?
So it depends. If you're just using a password and you're not using dual or multi-factor authentication, which I'll get to in a second.
Okay.
I would change that thing once every 3 months.
Okay. So then you have these different, some 3 months, some are every week, some are 90 days. Some of the systems we use at work mandate a certain period of time.
Sure.
I mean, it could be unwieldy to try and keep track of it. How do you keep track of all of that? Because you can't just have a sheet of paper next to your desk with all the passwords on it.
Well, you could. That'd probably be bad too.
Not what you would recommend.
No.
As our resident expert, that's not what you recommend.
Do not tape a list of passwords underneath your keyboard, anywhere around your desk. I always recommend using some sort of password app. They're usually encrypted themselves. You have a master password for the app. Write that down on a piece of paper. Stick it in your safe deposit box. Don't keep that one kicking around because that is going to give access to all your passwords.
Okay.
There are a few brands that I use. One is called KeyPass.
Okay.
You can download it on your cell phone. There's a plugin for your computer. Another one is LastPass. LastPass I use quite extensively. It's great for keeping track of all your passwords. It also has a plugin for your popular web browser, so it'll automatically put the passwords into the password boxes, so you don't need to know what the password is.
Okay.
So you can
there's ways you could leverage technology to help yourself out.
And you can have super complex passwords that you don't even need to remember. Just mash on the keyboard, make us some silly password, and the software will do the work of remembering what it is and putting it in when you need it. Very
good. So passwords, if there's only one thing you're going to do, it should be password integrity. Change them, have them complex, and have a system for keeping track of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So I'm curious about how cautious you need to be with websites that you go to so that you don't have your computer corrupted in some way. So how do you do that?
Before we get there,
yeah.
Let me. I just mentioned multi-factor authentication,
which is really some serious tech jargon.
It sounds crazy,
sounds scary,
but it's great.
All right.
So all it is you have your regular password, and then the whatever website or online utility that you're using knows to send you a challenge through a different medium. So you put in your password, and then the website knows it needs to send you a text message with a code that you then put in as a second form of authentication.
It's funny you say that because so just a few days ago, I'm trying to think when it was, but that's not really important. But just a few days ago, I called my bank, and that's how they verified me. They asked me a couple of base questions, and then they said, would you like us to do verification through, I think it was either email or text message, and that is exactly what happened. So I'm on the phone with the person. They asked me for name, basic information, but the real way they verified the information was they sent me an email that had a 6-digit code in it, and then I had to recite the code back to them, and that was the security measure. I had never experienced that before.
Right. Yeah, and that's great. And there are a lot of websites now that incorporate that technology, and they do it in a way that makes it not so burdensome. So, for instance, Google, if you use their email system or their web apps or anything like that, you enable two-factor authentication through your personal settings, and then it only prompts you whenever it notices that you've logged on from a different computer than you normally do.
Okay.
So if you're logging on from your aunt's computer because you happen to be over there for the holidays or whatever, they'll send you the code, which you'll receive on your phone, and then you plug that in to say, yes, this is me.
So if they recognize the computer, they may not go through that second level authentication, but if you're at a computer on a system that they don't recognize, they'll have this extra safeguard.
Correct.
All right. I'm
and
glad
also, you'll receive an email that says, hey, we noticed that you tried to log in from this weird place that we don't recognize. So if you receive one of those, you'll know somebody has your primary password. So
you can
go and change it. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for making us double back. That was good information. What about caution about websites? How does that fit into keeping your cyber world safe? Does it really matter in today's day and age what site you go to, say for e-commerce or whatever?
Yes. You want to stick to the things that are known to be well used and well governed. So Amazon.com is a great place to purchase things. Like a gazillion people use it.
Right.
If they got hacked, or there's some leak of personal data or anything like that, it would be big trouble for that company. So they have a lot of vested interest to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
If you go to joescarpartsworld.com, or I just made that up, but and they have a really shady looking website. I don't know if I'd necessarily put my credit card information into that one.
And how safe is it to keep, you mentioned like Amazon being as an example, not the end all to be all, but an example of, say, you could have more confidence in because of the mass usage. Is what's your thoughts on saving your credit card at the Amazon site or any other site for that matter?
Well, Amazon, I feel really comfortable for a few reasons. One, I have dual factor authentication set up on that site.
All right.
So only I can, as long as I have my phone and I'm getting challenged on my login, will they let me purchase something on that site? The next thing is that in order to ship to a new address, you need to revalidate your credit card number through Amazon. So when you log on and you want to purchase something, if I wanted to have it shipped to where I normally have it shipped to, no problem, they'll just ship it. But if I want to have it shipped to someplace in Arizona, they're going to ask me to re-put in my credit card number to make sure that I'm the one.
I see. So if it seems normal, like you're from your normal computer and then you're sending it to your home address, that's going to kind of get greenlit rather easily. Yep. But if you're adding in another address, like if you were sending me a gift,
right,
you'd have extra.
As I do every Christmas.
Yes, that's why I brought that up. And what about pop-ups? How cautious? Oh God, I keep getting ahead of myself.
It's okay. So Amazon's a good example of a pretty solid foundation for keeping your credit card number stored on. As for Joe's Auto Parts weird site that we talked about, I don't know if I'd keep my credit card information on there, if I'd use it at all. If they have a PayPal option, I'd probably be more likely to use that because they're not directly getting my credit card information. The transaction's getting passed through PayPal as a sort of little security barrier.
All right. And pop-ups?
Pop-ups, they're the devil.
So if you're on your computer and you're at a site and a pop-up comes, it could be an ad, it could be some type of article. It could be an invitation to go to another site. It could be you want a contest. It could be any number of things. You should just, as a general rule, avoid them.
Avoid them. There's usually a box to close the ad. Be cautious. Just like everything online, you have to be super cautious and read everything. Sometimes depending on how tricky the advertiser's trying to be, there might be a close button within the text of the document, the pop-up. And if you click on that, it may bring you to someplace else. So
someplace else that you probably do not want to be.
Don't want to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it fair to say that most, like Yahoo and Google and stuff like that, don't they have like a pop-up blocker that you can enable, and that helps a lot?
Well, those services specifically don't have the pop-up blocker, but you can use pop-up blockers. If you use Google Chrome, just search the Chrome extension store.
And that helps quite a bit?
It does.
It's something you'd recommend?
Yes.
All right. Now at home, Chuck, I have a server, but it's password protected. So how valuable is that? Is it valuable at all? Like somebody coming down the street couldn't use my Wi-Fi at my house because it's password protected.
Well, everything is sort of... depends how much time and energy somebody wants to put into trying to get onto your Wi-Fi.
Okay.
There are ways to crack Wi-Fi. It could take depending on the level of encryption you have on that. If somebody wanted to camp out in your backyard and be covert and try and hack your Wi-Fi, they could get
understood. But for most people that are listening, just Main Street Americans, would you suggest that they have their Wi-Fi at their home have a password, or
always.
just have it open?
Always have a password.
And then there's different levels of complexity.
Yep.
And that's what you're saying. It could be something base, and if somebody really wanted to overcome that, they probably could.
Right.
And this is kind of like a lock on the door. You could have a lock on the door, or you could have a really special lock on the door. You have to determine what's right for you.
Right,
Is that a good analogy?
Well, yeah. So if you're going to configure your own Wi-Fi, make sure that the password of the encryption is WPA2.
WPA2.
Yep, that's there will be three types that are, well, four, I guess, technically. You're open, which is no password, WEP, WPA, and WPA2. WPA2 is the most, for simplicity's sake, the most secure of the stack. So just go with that. The password has to be mildly complex, but not too bad. And it has to be, I think, a minimum of 12 characters or 16 characters. I forget exactly what the minimum is. But it's not hard to configure that way. Okay.
So, I mean, so far we talked, you should have passwords. We talked about that. Be careful about the websites you go to and where you put your credit card. We talked about pop-ups. Avoid the pop-ups. Use pop-up blockers to even prevent those pop-ups from even arriving on your screen. And the next thing I wanted to ask you about, because I thought about this, Joelle and I and the kids, we went into the city. We had a great time. And like a lot of places, as soon as we checked in, it was, let's get in the free Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we have unlimited data. I mean, because, with a teenager at home and a 12-year-old, I mean, we have data coming out of the wazoo. But it's the free Wi-Fi. And then sometimes if I'm on the road, I'll work in Starbucks, and you go on the free Wi-Fi. Is that smart?
No.
Okay.
So
all four of my family, we did it wrong this past weekend.
Especially if you have unlimited data. Just use your data. Don't hop on the free Wi-Fi. One, you don't know who put in that Wi-Fi. Two, it's not the usual place for you to go. So you don't know if somebody is rebroadcasting that same Wi-Fi name to you and grabbing...
So if I'm in Starbucks, I don't know if it's really Starbucks or
Correct.
It could be some bad guy in Nigeria or even just out in front of Starbucks.
Oh, it's usually the guy sitting at table 12 with his laptop out and the headphones on, like watching all these people connect to his Starbucks Wi-Fi, and all your traffic is passing through his computer and then back out to the internet. So he's capturing all your data.
So that's bad.
Yep.
All righty. I'm glad to know.
Yep.
Even though we had a wonderful weekend in the city, apparently we made a little mistake.
Well, I mean, it's a mistake a lot of people make. If you don't have a unlimited data plan with your cell carrier, you can use a VPN software on your phone, and what that will do is it will make a secure tunnel from your device all the way out to your VPN provider, so that nobody can penetrate that that data between your device and the endpoint where it comes out.
So short of doing the extra VPN work, is if you just don't use the Wi-Fi, use your data, you're more protected. Not completely protected, but more protected than doing the free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but like your cell carrier has a vested interest to keep your stuff safe, right? Just like Amazon has a vested interest to keep your credit card number safe.
So next I wanted to ask you about sending financial information through email. So, we get this here. Clients will send us financial information. It might be their tax return, could be statements, or somebody's applying for a mortgage and the mortgage company asks for a tax return or W-2s or bank statements, whatever the case may be, and they just attach the email, do a PDF, attach the email, send it off. That's probably not best practice, right?
No, not best practice at all.
All right.
Because just like anything else, if somebody does have your email password and they are logging on as you, they're just going to check your sent items and find all the tax returns that you've sent in the past. Unless those items are encrypted in one fashion or another, they're just in plain text for anyone to view. So what I do with my tax returns when I send them to my accountant, I encrypt them with my PDF software. I personally use Adobe Acrobat, and that allows me to encrypt those PDFs. And then I call my tax provider with the password. I don't send that also through email.
I see.
And I don't text it to him. I call him up and I tell him over the phone the password is Chris Calander is an awesome dude.
Okay.
Period.
That's good.
So that way, both the encrypted document and the password to open that document have taken different avenues to get to the endpoint, to the end person, so that it can't be compromised easily.
This is a crazy question. If you actually faxed your tax return, that would actually be safer than email?
Yep.
That's kind of nutty when you think about it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's why banks still have fax machines, and they still rely on that.
That could be. So what I think listeners ought to think about is there's ways that you could protect it. But first and foremost, if you're sending something of financial nature, private information, just be careful about how you're sending it to email. Talk with the other provider. There's things like Dropbox also, right? There are things that you can do. There are things that you can do other than just sending it blindly through the email. You need to be very sensitive about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, be careful. Talk to your trusted IT partner as to what the best way for you specifically is to make sure that gets there safely.
So I don't think any conversation about cybersecurity would be complete if we didn't talk about malware. So first off, I've heard that term bandied about for a while now, including by Paul here at Elliott Wealth, who takes care of our systems. What is malware?
It's essentially a piece of software that is designed to do something malicious. That's where the mal comes from. So whether that be stealing data from your computer and sending it off to whoever the malware creator is, scraping passwords and keystrokes from your computer and sending them somewhere else. So literally just recording every time you type something in. So they're pretty smart. They see that you type in Amazon.com, and then they see that the next thing you type in is your email address, and the next thing you type in is a bunch of weird characters. They know which one the password is, and they have your username and password there. It could be doing things like just putting a little piece of software that sits in the background waiting to act on an instruction from another computer somewhere else. So this was popular when Bitcoin got really popular to be mining Bitcoin. There was malware sent out across the world that would turn people's computers into Bitcoin mining machines and then send all that data processing back
and
for
that would
a
be
master.
that would be if I was the victim, that would be happening behind the scenes of my computer, and it would be unbeknownst to me.
Well, you would notice that your computer is getting really slow, and you're like,
Okay.
why is this happening? All you would notice really for that particular one is that it's unusably slow.
All right.
And it's getting hot.
So how do you protect against malware and reduce the chances that your computer is infected? And sometimes it could be rather benign, right? They sometimes just want to track where you're going.
Yeah.
And it could be much more malicious.
Right.
But how do you mitigate the risk of malware?
There are lots of providers out there that create malware removal and prevention software. Malwarebytes is the big player right now. There's a free version. You can download it. Just run it. It works great.
What's that company?
Malwarebytes, Malwarebytes.
Okay. And so Norton was early on as a company then?
Yep. So Norton they're mainly an antivirus software that covers malware as well. With all of these programs, there's Kaspersky, there's McAfee, there's you name it, they're out there. There's no silver bullet, so nobody does it all really well.
If you're using something, regardless of which it is, whether it's free or paid for, what have you, you should run diagnostics every once in a while. I know these kind of run in the background, right?
Yep, a lot of them run in the background on their own, and they're constantly scanning for.
So there's really nothing you need to do.
There shouldn't be much you need to do. I do a manual scan occasionally anyway, just in case. I'm hyper paranoid.
Well, when you think everybody's trying to get your data, that's not paranoid.
No.
So, with the time we have left, maybe you could just point out some common scams to be aware of so that you could avoid. We were talking before we started recording about the email one where you get something from purported to be, say, your bank. Can you walk us through that, how that works?
Yeah, emails is the best or the favorite way of a lot of these hackers to try and get your personal information. They'll construct an email that looks like it comes from your bank. It'll have the right logo in the corner. It'll have the right words on the links that it normally would from your bank. But what's hidden under there and you don't really see is the fact that the link is actually going to somewhere else other than your bank. And it will bring you to a page that looks like your bank, and you go ahead and type in your login information, and it really does nothing. So now the criminal has your bank login information. A lot of the email scams are just trying to get your bank information, your social security number, any of your personal information so that they can try and steal your identity to do whatever they want to do with it.
And
get new credit cards, whatever.
And the easy defense of this is that financial institutions, banks, the IRS, governmental agencies, they're not going to send you an email typically asking you to log in to solve the problem?
So sometimes they will. If God forbid your bank has a breach, they would send out a mass communication saying we had a breach. Please log into your account, change your password.
But it won't be a link from that site though, would it? I mean, from that email?
They may do it.
Okay.
But best practice is to ignore all the links in the email and just go to your bank's website as you normally would.
So if you get some kind of correspondence, whether it's a call, an email, what have you, from your financial institution, it's a good best practice not to respond to that email or use a link in that email, but just separately go to that institution or call that institution and delink the two to make sure that you're in safe waters?
Yep.
Okay. All right, very good.
Yeah, I've annoyed my fair share of bank personnel by telling them I'm not going to tell them anything because they called me and I don't know who they are.
So the bank calls you and they say, is this Mr. Ruiz? And you said yes. And before they tell you why they're calling, they say, we want to verify your...
Correct.
And you won't play...
I won't play that game. So I call back the number that's on the back of my bank card and I say, I just received a call from you guys. I'm not sure. I think it was you, but I'm not sure. I'm calling you back to verify the fact that this is my bank and you are not somebody trying to just steal my data.
Because if they're calling you, they shouldn't have to verify your information if they want to sell you something or ask you a question.
One would think.
So All right. Does that happen a lot? Do people get scammed that way? That
Yes.
seems like it'd be...
Yeah, it's an easy way to get scammed.
I could see that. And what about attachments in emails that you get? That's another danger area,
Yeah,
no?
if you're not expecting it, don't open it. Just delete it. Or if you think it might be viable, call the person up and ask them if they sent it.
Because you could do a lot of damage to your
you can.
computer.
You can infect your computer with malware, viruses, all sorts of stuff. End up giving remote access unbeknownst to you by clicking on something that seems simple and benign like an Excel spreadsheet.
Wow. There is a lot to be careful about.
Mm-hmm.
What about Microsoft or Apple? They call you. Is Microsoft or Apple going to call me to let me know
never.
there's trouble with my computer?
Microsoft or Apple will never call you to let you know that your computer has malware on it. That's a common scam where a quote-unquote Microsoft authorized repair center will call you just to try and sell you support services. And some of them are mildly legitimate, where they're trying to sell you an annual contract for support. Others are trying to just rack up charges, and what they'll do is they'll say, "Oh, we see that your computer has malware on it." They'll talk you into letting them remotely control your computer, and then they'll show you a bunch of stuff on your computer that looks scary, but it's a bunch of stuff that every computer has. They'll show you your event log on your computer, and it'll have a bunch of errors on it. Every event log on every computer has a bunch of errors in it.
But to the layperson who gets nervous,
exactly.
They think they're on the phone with an expert.
Yep, these guys will talk it up and scare these people, and then it'll be like, "Oh, this is going to cost $800 for us to fix. Just give us your credit card information." And then old lady, it's usually older people that get caught in the scam, gladly hands over the thing, and they do some stuff, and the stuff is just looking like they're doing work.
But I also thought, Chuck, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
I
no.
also thought a lot of that scam, they'll also make your computer worse.
Sometimes.
So then, they'll do this, and then they actually plant a bomb on your computer, and then, they could go back to the well and charge
Oh, they do.
increasing amounts of money, or even hold your computer hostage until you pay.
That's a different scam altogether. But yes, to continue on this one, they can do whatever they want here. You've already given them access. They can do whatever they want to try and extort more money out of you. We had one lady come into the shop where the people on the phone were very nice. And what they wound up doing was they went through her contacts on her computer. They changed the phone number for the Apple store, our local Apple store, to their phone number. So when she was calling Apple from her phone or wherever through the contact, she would actually be calling them back so that they could continue this long con of support.
Yeah.
And so these guys are creeps. They do all sorts of stuff to even mess with the legitimate numbers that you have.
And you mentioned that anybody could be a victim of it at any age, but a lot of the victims turn out to be elderly, retired, older individuals that may not, I'm stereotyping, but may not be as comfortable with technology and as savvy with technology as maybe other generations. Again, I'm stereotyping, but they take the biggest brunt of the stuff we're talking about.
They're more trusting.
Yeah.
They haven't been burnt as much as you or I have with the day-to-day.
Very good. So I know I opened up the ransomware. So talk about that for a minute.
Creepy. So ransomware is essentially you get a piece of malware through clicking on a link, clicking on an attachment you weren't expecting. And essentially what it does is encrypt all the files that are important to you on your computer. It encrypts all your documents. It encrypts all your pictures, all your music, all your PDFs, all that stuff. And puts up a splash screen on your screen to say, unless you go to this website and pay us the equivalent of $300, $500, $700 in Bitcoin, your stuff will be encrypted forever, and we're not going to release the key unless you pay the ransom. So what some people end up doing is trying to pay the ransom. And a couple of years ago, if you paid the ransom, as far as criminals go, these guys are pretty upstanding. They would give you your key, and your stuff would get decrypted, and everyone was happy. More recently, the ransomware software has become more rampant, and lots of people have it and are distributing it in their own ways, and you won't necessarily get your files decrypted if you pay the ransom.
Wow.
So the real solution to this is to make sure that you have really good backups, backups that are versioned. So that means every time a backup is taken, it just creates a new version of the file. It doesn't overwrite the old version of the file. So you have a solid backup over time. So you have a backup from this week, a backup from last week, a backup from the week before, and it's just not overwritten. So that if you get hit by one of these ransomware things, you can just go back to your most recent backup.
The ransomware is more for businesses or individuals, or both?
Both. Everyone gets hit with it.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's terrible.
We talked about some scary stuff here, but let's just review the basics of what people could do. Number one is have password integrity, have multiple passwords, change them regularly, don't have them be simple, don't have 1, 2, 3, 4. Like,
do not.
Bad idea. You should have malware software to protect against malware.
Anti-malware. You don't want the malware.
We don't want the malware. If you have a server, you should have it password protected. You can judge how strong that should be, but you should have at least something basic. You need to be cautious about what websites you go to. Avoid pop-ups. Be careful about where you store your credit card. Don't use free Wi-Fi when you're out in the public. Don't open attachments you're not sure of. If somebody calls you, be cautious about giving information to them. Even if they appear to be from the financial institution, you should verify it in some way, shape, or form. And take advantage of these new authentication services that Amazon and financial institutions, where you also get an email or a text or something like
Absolutely.
that.
Yep.
Did I kind of give a good summary?
I think you got it. Yeah,
well, thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Oh.
I thought at the beginning where we were going that I would be more frightened by the end, but I actually feel pretty good. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
For individuals that want to get information about Bethel IT, what's the website?
BethelITservices.com. BethelIT services.com.
Thank you very much. I will be back with you with another episode of the Simply Financial podcast very soon. I would appreciate, as always, if you could share this episode with friends, family, or coworkers. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. You could get more information about me and Elliott Wealth Management Services at www.elliottwealth.com. Elliott has 2 L's, 2 T's. Again, thanks for listening.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Osaic Wealth, Inc., and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of information provided at these websites. Nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to or your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through Osaic Wealth, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management Services, LLC, not affiliated with Osaic Wealth, Inc.